Hello world, this is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake for Hoopa Hideout. Today I'm coming to you with some more on how to play Miraidon in 2024. Today we're going to focus on the first deck list that we went over, and we're going to go through and actually review some videos that I recorded playing on Pokemon TCG Live. Now before we get into the actual gameplay, which is coming real fast, I want to mention to those of you out there who haven't seen the deck list, don't know what the two different versions of Miraidon are right now, please check out the previous video. There should be a link around here somewhere, and take a look and just see if you pick up anything there. The list that we're using today is down in the description, and with that we will dig into the action right now. So our opponent won the coin flip, well, won the ability to flip the coin, and looks like we actually won the coin flip. So of course we will be choosing to go second here. Miraidon's another one of the decks that can totally pop off and win some of its games just by taking KOs when our opponent isn't able to get anything set up. So generically I like to go second. There are times that going first is better, and we'll elaborate on that a little bit more here in the tips and tricks video coming out later. So it looks like we're against a Lost Roaring Moon type of deck. That could be problematic for us if they are able to get Roaring Moon powered up before we have our situation handled. But it could be fine if we're just sort of racing each other. We just have to be the first in the race to take a two-prize knockout. The beach court that they played there will help us with attacking turn one if we can get the energy we want in play. And it looks like they are not going to bench their Roaring Moon. So that's a little unfortunate for us. We might need to focus now on attacking with Iron Hands. So I'm kind of thinking through my options here, trying to decide how I want to proceed. I think a Nest Ball for a Miraidon is probably the best bet, and then we can use Tandem Unit to get some other Pokemon. We'll get Iron Hands and maybe a Mareep down. Let's go ahead with that. So Tandem Unit, Iron Hands, and Mareep. If we really wanted to, we could get another Miraidon and do another round of Tandem Unit to completely fill our board, but we're not doing that yet. Now here, we have a few options. We could go ahead and research, try to load up on resources, and it looks like that's what I decided to do. I think it's equally an option to just judge there, get rid of their Roaring Moon, and kind of leave them with a 4-card hand. But I don't mind the way this worked out by any means. So we're going to go ahead and bench the Raikou V now. And I'm going to try out the Electric Generator and totally whiff, which kind of sucks. So we can bench the Tapu Koko. I don't know that we necessarily... Well, Tapu Koko with the paralysis can be a good comeback mechanic against Roaring Moon. It can correct the pace, but when we are against a Lost Box deck, they're going to have all kinds of switching cards, so it's probably not a good mechanic there. So I ended up just going ahead and squawking that turn. I think that's reasonable. And so I decided to go ahead and just use the Motivate attack here and prep things, put a decent amount of damage, put a little bit of damage, but mostly put a decent amount of energy onto Iron Hands. So this way we kind of have a head start in powering him up for next turn, and we can start taking multi-prize knockouts on the single prizers. Now, if they are able to get 7 in the Lost Zone here, which is fairly unusual, I don't know exactly what their deck is constructed as, but it's fairly unusual for that to happen on turn 2 with them going first. So I'm not that worried about it, but if they are able to do it, then we'll have to switch into countering the Roaring Moon, probably doing a Tandem Unit for the... What would we go for? For the Zapdos to up our damage. But no, they're just going ahead and they're attacking with Cramorant. So Roaring Moon will be a factor next turn, but he's not a factor this turn, and that's perfectly okay by us. So we see Boss's Orders. We're going to go ahead, definitely evolve up into the Flaaffy. We're going to bench the Forest Sealstone. And probably just Iono from here. So get rid of some of his cards, get some more cards for us. We can slap down the EXP share so that we can continue our attack, our onslaught, or assault, into the next turn. Go ahead, play the Electric Generator, and we want to definitely play forever. Always play the Electric Generators before you attach for turn or before you use Flaaffy. And the reason for that is that you get to decide how you want to do those actions. So here, I'm going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away, Path to the Peak, and the Lightning Energy. I can get a Mew to draw further. And I'm doing this knowing that I'll be able to, if Roaring Moon takes a knockout on us, I'll be able to go ahead and tandem unit to get out that Zapdos so that we can hit that 230 number. Go ahead, use the Mew, draw, but I don't end up getting anything meaningful. We will Dynamotor, and I could see going onto the Mew. I could also see just going onto the Miraidon, but I think I'm figuring that I can do that next turn instead. And then we will attack with Amp You Very Much to knock out the Cramorant and take 2 prizes. This is ensuring we have taken the first 2-prize knockout, which puts us in a good position. So now, even if they get a knockout with Roaring Moon, we'll be able to return knockout, most likely again with Miraidon. And I think the EXP share was probably the reason that I didn't Dynamotor onto Miraidon, because it'll be a simple attach with EXP share, attack next turn, and we'll still have another Dynamotor on top of that. So we have it. We sort of have energy coming out our ears at this point, and that's a good thing. Our stadium is, I guess that's still our opponent's stadium. I was thinking we had played the beach court, but they played it down before we even could. But it is making our opponent's life easier, which is certainly not the goal. We see them bring in another Koream, but we don't know if they're using it or not. You see me checking their loss zone count, so they're going to be up to 9 after this, but 9 is not 10. That means they cannot use Sableye just yet. Sableye is only a worry because our Squawkabilly is down, only has 50 HP, which means they could approach, like they can try to set up numbers to get a more than one, like a multiple KO situation, and we want to try to keep that from happening. Fire energy here signals that they are probably playing Radiant Charizard. We see them use an Escape Rope, and I sent up the Squawkabilly because if they're going to knock something out, I want them to knock out Squawkabilly. I want it to be gone as a target for Sableye. But then they just go ahead and pull up a Pokemon instead anyway. So we will, of course, promote our free retreater. Oh, no, we won't. I already decided on a plane, I guess. So I was thinking here that I was going to Boss's Orders up the Cramorant and take 2 prizes on it. But it turns out that isn't how I'm sorry, it turns out that we actually top deck Boss's Orders. So I was going to use the Forest Sealstone to get it, but we don't even have to do that now. So I still think it would have been better for us to have brought up the free retreater, because you never know what that top deck is going to be, and maybe it could have been something that actually would have changed my mind. I should have allowed for that, but letting it play out the way it has is certainly a-okay. So from here, we're just going to amp you very much and take 2 more prizes. Again, we're solidly ahead in the prize trade, but again, we do have to watch out for Sableye potentially evening the score. Now, it's also worth noting that Roaring Moon cannot take a knockout on Iron Hands without damaging itself, leaving itself with 30 HP left. So that would pretty much give us the game. So I'm sure that's not what they're going to do. Other than that, their avenues for attacking and taking prizes are that Sableye, or if they get Radiant Charizard out and attack with it, of course it would be taking a knockout. But they don't have the energy required to make that work. So they decided to go ahead and boss up the Squawkabilly. And I go ahead and promote the Miraidon and finish things off just the way I had been planning, with the Zapdos and an attachment to finalize our 2-2-2 prize plan. So it worked out. We didn't get to start quite as early as we would have liked. We had to get that Squawkabilly turn in there in the beginning, but that's a-okay. So now let's load up another match to look at. Okay, once again, our opponent is calling the coin flip. And they're flipping. Looks like they won the coin flip. So let's see who goes first. They're going to be going first, meaning we get to be the first attacking turn, going second. So that's awesome for us. Of course, we'll lead our free retreater. That's exactly what we want to do. We do get to play a supporter this turn as well. Our opponent leads a Phoebus, which tells me they're playing a Goldengo EX tech. Phoebus evolves into okay, so our opponent gets the coin flip again, and looks like they're going to call heads. Sometimes I almost don't want to win the coin flip, just so they don't know that I'm choosing to go second. But I definitely will choose to go second if I get the opportunity. Our opponent chose to go first, which is even better. They're not suspecting that we are a deck that is designed around taking knockouts turn one. We'll, of course, lead Mew EX with the free retreat. We will eventually bench Mareep, but not right away. Oh, and our opponent starts a Phoebus. So Phoebus evolves into Milotic, which is mostly being used right now in Goldengo. The other pieces we're seeing here, the Pokestop, and pretty much all the items we just saw are all Goldengo-esque as well, all things that Goldengo plays. So that's probably what we're playing against. But hopefully that's not even going to matter, and we're just going to win straight away. Just going to attach the EXP shares because I have them, and we're going to get rid of all the cards. So here, we've got Miraidon. We can go ahead and bench the Iron Hands. Definitely want Raikou and something else. Just to thin the deck. We will go ahead now and use the generator. We hit 1 energy, that's all we need. So we can attach to Raikou, we can manually attach to Raikou for the second energy, we can retreat, and we can take a knockout. Ah, our opponent didn't even want to wait that long. I don't blame him, that was kind of rough. Okay, so I actually chose this game to record just because it's a matchup that historically has been considered poor for Miraidon. And while that's true, I think that there are a lot of things that can make it different nowadays. So let's go ahead and take a look. Our opponent gets the coin flip, well, gets to flip the coin. They choose heads, and it is heads, so they get to pick. And they will choose to go first. Excellent. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay, so we're starting Raichu or Tapu Koko. Since we don't know what is out there, we'll put Raichu up. We can always use his Gather Energy attack if everything just kind of goes to pot. And we're against Rapid Strike, leading Urshifu. So now is when they should know not to bench any kind of Inteleons. See them Ultra Ball. Basically, if they bench an Inteleon, we're probably going to they get rid of 2 Inteleon VMAX. They know. If they were to bench Inteleons, we can much more easily get that first turn knockout situation going. And we can end up just racing them in prizes much more effectively. So they've Ultra Balled both Inteleon VMAXs away, so there should still maybe be 1 in deck. Looks like they're probably doing a very thorough prize check. And we see Octillery come out. Naturally, they had Remoraid in hand. They're putting down a Medicham, and I think they're doing that exclusively to protect the Remoraid in the case that we play an Escape Rope. I go ahead and put down Tapu Koko, because Tapu Koko could actually be pretty relevant in this matchup. We'll get rid of the Double Turbo and 1 Electric Energy. We're not likely to use Iron Hands this game. But Tapu Koko with the Paralysis attack, that's a different story. So go ahead, we get Squawkabilly to fill our hands with cards. And I'm debating here whether or not to attach to Tapu Koko. We'd really rather try to go for a turn 1 knockout, so I don't attach yet. Go ahead, we do get Raikou off of the Squawk there. And again, I'm faced with the decision, do we attach energy or not? And again, I'm going to say we don't. What we want to do is get to a Miraidon and a generator. And we want to hit the generator. And then we want to go crazy and take a turn 1 knockout. We do finally get to Miraidon. And before we play the generator, we should go ahead and attaching the XP share is great, but more important than that, before we do this, we should use our tandem unit to get Flaaffy. We've got several energy. I'm sorry, get Mareep, so we can evolve into Flaaffy. We have several energy in the discard now. We want to be able to make use of that. We hit 1 energy, and we are what is heretofore known as a sad panda. But we're not done trying. We're going to go ahead and actually use our Forward Seal Stone to get another Electric Generator. We have 7 energies left, a 29 card. It'll be a 28 card deck. So about 1 in 4 cards. We should hit at least 1. We could have thinned a little further here. So I'm going to pause it for just a second. We have a Mareep here. We have a Flaaffy in hand, but also in deck. We could have Ultra Balled and gotten out the other Flaaffy. We could have gotten out Mew. We could have gotten a number of things that would have pulled 1 extra card from the deck to thin further here, make it more likely that we hit 2. But we did hit 2, and that works. So now, with that little bit of extra luck, we are able to take a turn 1 knockout. Part of this is that we were persistent in our attempts to make this happen. And it definitely will pay off in spades, because now our opponent is so far behind, they are unlikely to be able to catch up anytime soon. Unfortunately, we don't have the V-Star anymore, so we can't guarantee that we'll be able to attack a 2-prizer. If our opponent puts something up and we don't have any way to gust, we might just end up attacking for 1 prize. Now, if it's 1 prize and it's Octillery, that's great. But if they like stick up an unevolved Remoraid or even an Alakazam, that's not what we're looking for. We did get our other Flaaffy off of the Iono, so that's helpful. And we see Octillery doing the Rapid Strike search to find a Rapid Strike card. They end up choosing that unevolved Remoraid, so we must be making some kind of a switch back, or maybe attaching a water and retreating with the Beach Court. Yeah, and they're just going to make us take a 1 prize knockout. So we can evolve into Flaaffy. Getting another 4 Seal Stone doesn't help us now that we've already used our 1. We can place that energy kind of anywhere. Raikou's fine. Raikou is our most efficient attacker right now, so that's a good thing. Yeah, we will go ahead and Professor's Research before we do anything else. So it looks like we're going to go ahead and end up just attacking with the Raikou for 1 prize. They are fairly unlikely, unless they get like a melody or something. They're fairly unlikely to be able to take out the Raikou with what they have in play. And even if they do, we have Return Knockout. We'll be so far ahead that their heads will swim, and we will just be glad. There's an Escape Rope, which we really would have benefited from during that turn. Let's see, multiple generators now. I was holding the generators in case we found ourselves needing to actually try to power up Iron Hands to get multiple prizes on a single prize or on a future turn once they've taken a knockout. It's unlikely to be the case. It's unlikely to be necessary, but we'll see what happens. So then play Clara, which will get back 2 Pokemon and 2 water energies, 2 basic energies, but the only basic energies they play is water. We do see Urshifu come out again, and Remoraid. So this should mean that they can't even get a knockout here. Since they didn't do any extra attachments. I'm just looking. I don't see where they can really do much of anything. If they come up and they Gale Thrust, they will be hitting us for all of 60 damage. And that's not very worrisome. Instead, they just pass. Okay, so we can go ahead and Dynamotor and put an energy on really either Pokemon. Or we could just do one of each, that works too. And I think that our play here is to gust up the Urshifu, because it's the most dangerous thing they have on their field. And then, oh, definitely need a Fleet-Footed. I bet we'll use our free retreat and just take it out again with Miraidon. So from here, I think no matter what they do, we can seal the game up and take a knockout against anything they have next turn. We've got, even if Miraidon goes down, we'll have 4 energies in play. And that's 240 damage, or actually, so assuming we attach 2 Raichu, that would be 240 damage. It'd actually be 200 and like 300 damage, since we'd have to attach as well. And then with the EXP share, that bumps it up another 60. So we can do 360 damage next turn. So yeah, we definitely will get our final knockout, our final prize next turn. I see a double gunner play. I'm not sure I see why they're doing this, but I guess it doesn't hurt anything. Oh, Radiant Alakazam. Okay, I see where this is going. Yeah, okay, they have Rapid Strike energy. They're going to retreat into the Medicham. They're going to use Radiant Alakazam to move 20 damage up to the Miraidon and then hit us for weakness, and that 100 becomes 200. And they get the knockout with Medicham. Unfortunately, it's not a Yoga Loop knockout, so they will not get an extra turn, which means we definitely do have game. We'll go ahead and take an energy, and I mean, we could just attack with Raichu, but that requires us clicking away energy and whatnot. That's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to go ahead and Escape Rope, knock something else out so we don't have to sit there and click all the energies that we're discarding off of all the different Pokemon. Okay, I thought it'd be faster. if this were an IRL game, I would just like say, hey, I'm going to attack with Raichu and knock it out with everything. But this way, we're going to attack Tapu Koko, hits 360 when you double 180. So that Inteleon V is not surviving, and we get our final prize. So the key to the Rapid Strike matchup, yes, they stumbled a little bit, and yes, we got a little bit lucky to be able to power up Miraidon with the 2 generators that we hit. But even so, we got, like, it was kind of unlucky to not get to a Miraidon until we'd already gotten rid of all the energy we could attach manually, until we were so deep into our deck. So I would still argue that being able to attack with Miraidon is average luck at best. And, you know, your goal is just to outspeed them, outspeed Rapid Strike, and take a knockout on the Urshifu over and over. You can also stall with paralysis because they can't actually get out of it very easily. They have no way to search other than if they are playing an Irida to get to their escape rope. They only have one escape rope most of the time and one Turo. So the paralysis can really stick and can really hurt them, which means the Tapu Koko, even if they've just gotten a big knockout with Urshifu VMAX, Tapu Koko's paralysis, then followed up by something else, can very often come through and take that knockout. So it evens out. It's not as bad a matchup if you can get your game going and take knockouts quickly. I don't even know that I would say it's unfavored. Okay, so real quick before we get into the final matchup, if you've found this beneficial, if you've enjoyed this video, if you've learned from this video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Okay, we're on our final game for the day. This one is actually going to end up being a mirror match, so we can kind of see how Miraidon does against Miraidon, and if there are tips and tricks that we can pick up on how to win this matchup. Our opponent won the coin flip, which probably means that we're going first. Yep. So they're going to try to lead things off, taking a knockout on us. And we're going to give them an extra card to help them do it. A couple extra cards even. And we're going to start Iron Hands to boot. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. So we have 2 electric generators in hand, which means that I don't think we can afford to squawk this early. So we're going to get rid of a research. We're going to get rid of a boss's orders, because I want to guarantee the manual attachment, and I want to play the generators. We will get Miraidon down. We will use Tandem Unit. And from here, we'll definitely pull out a couple meaningful Pokemon. I decided to go ahead and get another Miraidon and a Mareep. And then off of the next Miraidon, we'll get a couple more Pokemon. So here, we know we're not going to have access to Squawkabilly this game. So I think about whether or not Zapdos is going to be necessary. Since they have Miraidon in play already, you could argue that it's not. I choose to go ahead and just get the Zapdos in case they have other Pokemon that we need to worry about. Play one generator, and then play the other. The second generator does hit for 2. And I go ahead and load up onto the main Miraidon, and then attach 1 energy to our second Miraidon. This way we're spreading out the energy so that if our opponent knocks out one of the Miraidons, we still have the other one as backup. And then we will, of course, be able to research at the beginning of the next turn and hopefully get to enough resources to do what we need to do. We see our opponent get a Mareep and a Raikou, as well as a Zapdos. So they recognize that they're going to need a little bit of help to knock out the Iron Hands. They round things out with a Mew EX. Now part of the reason I guess I should say, that I didn't want to fill the bench on my side is that I didn't want their Raikou to be able to get a knockout for 2 energy. I didn't want to give them that easy of a time. We do see the generator come through, and they hit 2 energy. They hit 2 more onto the Zapdos, but because they retreated, they're not able to retreat again and get out of this stuck place. I don't want to be stuck without any energy, without the ability to attack, because I didn't attach an energy, so I'm going to go ahead and attach there, and we'll see where we go from here. This is a pretty good setup. I think we can go ahead. Now, the question is, do we want to put energy on Iron Hands? It's not a bad idea, in case we end up having to take out a Flaaffy or a Spiritomb because they're stalling. We might even want to take out their Zapdos next turn. So, with that in mind, I'm going to hold off on the generator until after I've played the Switch. I think the correct play is to switch into Iron Hands, then play the generator, and then choose what we're doing with Dynamotor. So I messed up there a little bit. It's definitely better to play the Switch first, since we know what we're attacking with. And it's better to do the generator before you Dynamotor, because it gives you information about where you're going to put stuff. And I'll go ahead and just use the Photon Blaster attack. Again, wanting to make it harder on them. They're going to have to attack with their 3 energy attacker in Miraidon, and I won't necessarily have to use an attacker of comparable value. So if we knock out their Miraidon, then they're going to be in trouble trying to hit that 220 number. They have to power up another Miraidon to make it work. We just do Raichu V and a Forest Seal Stone. Those things can help us out in terms of finding what we need for next turn. We see an EXP share come into play for our opponents, and they plop down a Path to Peak. So we're not going to be able to get another Pokemon out with a Miraidon, but we also aren't going to need to. So we have the guaranteed knockout here. We have Boss's Orders if we want to use it, but I don't see any reason why we do. And we can use Flaaffy now. I'd probably go ahead and put an energy on the Raichu, and then also one on Iron Hands. So either way we do that is fine. Oh, we can't do the right. Okay, so I think that was a slight mistake, powering up the Raichu, or the Iron Hands instead of the Raichu. I'd like to have one energy in both places, but it may be fine. I guess with the Forest Seal Stone, we're always guaranteed that we can get 2 energies next turn. And it's easier for them to knock out the Raichu. So centralizing the energy around Iron Hands seems like the best idea. We see that our opponent will be able to attack. Well, they have the energy to attack with Miraidon to get a return knockout. However, they have to get into the active to attack. So they do get the knockout here, and our question is basically, how do we finish the game before they get another chance to attack? We have to promote. We need to do something with a single retreat cost. That generator is helpful, for sure. I think mentioning the Tapu Koko first is the best idea in case we completely whiff it. And we did. Okay, so how do we want to come back from this? what can we do with access to any card in our deck? What can we do to win the game right now? I'm going to start Alchemy. And I think we have to research. I agree. So with research, we do get a Beach Court for retreat, and we get a Raichu V onto the bench. But I chose to just play the Escape Rope. So here, I think my thinking was if they sent up a single prizer, then I would power up Iron Hands, and if they sent up a two prizer, I would power up Raichu V. So that we were hitting either 240 for knockout on anything, or Iron Hands. But given that we had Raichu V in hand, we could have just gone Beach Court, Raichu V, like Beach Court, Dynamotor, and attach the Raichu V from hand and retreat. We didn't have to play the rope. So we made it a little more complicated than was necessary, but it definitely worked out. I don't know if there was a reason I didn't see that we can just bench the Raichu that's in hand, but in any case, definitely worked out. And I think that what we can kind of look back on from that matchup is that, unfortunately, the mirror will largely come down to who gets to attack and take a knockout first. It's always going to favor whoever goes second, but little things we did along the way could have made a difference if they had struggled a little more. And we'll talk about this again in the tips and tricks video coming later. But things like being able to attack and take a knockout or not with Raikou when he only needs 2 attachments, preventing that could make the difference in a game. It didn't there, but it could. And with that, this is Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake, and I thank you for watching.